Hello and welcome back to the channel. Amber here, and I'm going to take a look at the highlights of episode 207, Daes Dae'mar. And I think this was a good wrap-up episode, and it consisted of a lot of fun moments and big reveals, living up to the episode title. The thing I enjoyed the most about this episode is that it ties up a lot of loose ends and drives the main characters forward. Despite the episode mostly taking place in Cairhien, I actually enjoyed most of the B-plots in or outside of Falm the most. Nynaeve and Elaine make a wonderful team when they can set aside their differences. I'm really looking forward to seeing the conclusion to their rescue attempt. Egwene's training to become a Damane is giving her new lessons in the One Power, and even though she's been beaten and tortured by Renna, she still has fire in her belly. Despite it all, she hasn't been broken, and I love to see her defiant. Something I noticed is that I'm becoming more and more excited to focus on the younger characters. I'm becoming really invested in their plots, when for the majority of the season, I've been drawn to characters like Liandrin and Moiraine and her sister. It also feels like the story is leading up to focusing more on the Two Rivers ensemble as lead characters. And that's fun to see because it marks a big turning point for the adaptation. I will say that this episode felt a little bit like a speed run, dashing from one plot to the next to tie up all the loose ends. It sometimes felt a little bit jarring. This is the episode where I really felt like 8 episodes per season isn't enough. Not just because I wanted more, but because 207 is a bridge to the finale, and it's nice to savor that long march forward. The first scene of the episode focuses on Moiraine and Siuan 20 years ago at the end of the Aiel War. This immediately gave me a sinking feeling because whenever an episode focuses on a flashback of happy moments like this one, where they're making plans for when they are retired, wanting to spend their lives together, it's usually an indication that something very bad is going to happen, and it does in this episode. Katara has a prophecy that the dragon has been reborn. Tell no one, prepare the world to follow, foreshadowing downfall. Back in Cairhien, Siuan wants to know why Moiraine didn't tell her that she has been stilled. Siuan wants to meet Rand. So Lan prepares him for that meeting and gives him advice. He lets Rand keep a sword and gives him a new coat. Outside in the foregate, Mat is knocked unconscious by a hooded figure and then is magically transported by Lanfear to Falm. Then Moiraine and Lan meet. Lan questions if Moiraine has ever contemplated suicide. If so, this would be an indicator of if she has really been stilled. He read that there are only 2 women in history who didn't kill themselves after being stilled. Moving back to the Amyrlin and Rand, Tower Law says that the Dragon Reborn is to be caged by the Aes Sedai, and that Rand would only be allowed to channel what they want and when they want. It's similar to what the Sanche are doing, using people as weapons against their will, and at this point, the audience knows the Black Aja exists, so we should assume that if Rand was held there, he would likely end up imprisoned and killed. Now, Varen is the only one so far that has suspicions about the Black Aja, and we should put a pin in this because it makes her motivations for freeing Rand later in the episode make more sense. Back in the throne room, Rand makes an epically disappointing display of the One Power and is easily handled by Siuan Sanche. We then move to Egwene in Falm, continuing her Damane training. Renna grabs hold of saidar and assumes control over Egwene's power. The explosion is so strong, all of Falm shakes. There is a sickening moment where Egwene arches her back, and it almost looks like pride. And I do think Egwene likes the feeling of power. It would make sense. The first half of the season, she's been craving recognition. She's also being held captive and needs to feel any type of control. Holding that much of the One Power probably feels good right now. And I'm sure it's one of the reasons the Sanche are so effective at breaking the Damane, then establishing a type of twisted relationship with them. Using the One Power is like a narcotic. The psychological manipulation here is really complex. Also in Falm, Loyal runs into Nynaeve and Elaine, and it's a very heartwarming moment. Loyal knows where Egwene is being held and gives them important information. Only Soldam are allowed in and out, so if Nynaeve wants in, she's going to have to play the part of one. Moving back to Mat's plotline, he and Ishamael stand in a room with the seals. Ishamael has a gift for Mat, a tea that shows someone all their past lives and the real them. Somewhere outside of Falm, Perrin and Aviendha meet up with two other maidens of the spear, Bane and Chiad. The fourth of their party died, and Aviendha must take a beating for not protecting her. It's an Aiel obligation to take punishment to restore their honor. Moving back to Mat, he drinks the tea and is shown multiple visions, one of himself hanging by a noose, another of being drowned in a bucket of water, then drowning someone in the same bucket, him murdering a woman, and I have to take a quick sidebar here. There are signs that this is just a trick of Ishamael, that he's not actually in Falm, but in the world of dreams. The room he is in has the seals in it, and it's the same room from episode 5, where Ishamael and Lanfear meet. In the books, there is no tea that conjures up visions, but one of the visions he sees here actually happens in the books, a scenario that Ishamael wouldn't know about. So for now, we have to put a pin in this question and wait to see if it's revealed later on. In a dungeon, Rand is held shielded. He needs to get to Falm to save Egwene, knowing the Forsaken want him lured there, and something interesting happens. When Rand tells Moiraine that the Forsaken aren't going to like that he's here, imprisoned by the Amyrlin Seat, Moiraine glances at Leanne and then back at Rand and nods. She knows what's coming. Somewhere inside the castle, Liandrin meets with Barthanes, and plot twist, Barthanes is a dark friend. He is ordered to kill Moiraine, and if his mother suspects something, to kill her too. Lady Envers has been listening in on the whole conversation via an opening in the wall. This reveal makes Moraine's decision not to tell her sister about the hunt for the Dragon Reborn make total sense. I don't think she suspected her nephew was a dark friend, but her choice to keep everything secret is valid. She could become a target, and the people she loves could become a target as well. Back in Falm, Mat is caressed by Ishamael and is given a recruitment speech. The wheel turns, people suffer, death isn't final, and he just wants it to end. Mat asks, how? Is he really going to join the side of the shadow, or will he double-cross Ishamael? Rand then visits Lanfear and Tel'aran'rhiod, the world of dreams. She's coming to save him, and by the looks of it, she is really enjoying the chaos. Back in Cairhien, Lan meets with Loghain and wants to know if he can see male weaves on Moiraine, and he has, in fact, seen them. Thousands of strands pulled together, but nothing being channeled into them. Loghain makes a demonstration of how it looks by wrapping himself in a robe, and the more time we spend with Loghain, the more I want. Next, Nynaeve and Elaine confront a Soldam in the streets. Nynaeve collars her while Elaine knocks her out cold. Just a couple of things here, but Nynaeve and Elaine are such an iconic duo. When they stop bickering, they are competent and a force to be reckoned with. I'm really enjoying watching their scenes play out, and this is a book moment that I've always loved. Secondly, non-book readers should be asking themselves a question right now. How does the collar work on women who can't channel? What is the magical connection between Soldam and Damane? The next episode should answer more questions. Egwene is then washed by Renna and is told the Seanchan Empress plans to unite everyone on the planet under the light. I like how this moment is shown in parallel with Rand being held as a prisoner for the Aes Sedai as a weapon against the Dark One as well. Just because a group is working to fight against the Shadow, they still use unethical and immoral ways to do it. Egwene knows how messed up this is, smiles, and says, Renna, I will kill you. Back in Cairhien, Barthanes is lured into a dungeon by his mother, and it just goes to show you the Cairhienin do not play around. Envers can be just as cold and tactical as Moiraine, and despite the differences and stressed relationship, they both know sacrifice in the name of what's right. looks like the wedding is off. In Rand's cell, Varen comes in to relieve Lyanne from holding a shield on Rand, and we should all take a close listen at how deliberately chosen her words are. Varen says, "The Amyrlin requires your strength to protect Cairhien," which is technically true. She also says, "I've been told to watch the boy." Has she? And by whom? Lastly, she proclaims, "This is an order." Also, technically not a lie if she's ordering it herself. We will come right back to this in a moment, but Varen lets Rand and Moiraine go. We should assume that she trusts Moiraine more than the White Tower, which she believes has a Darkfriend infestation, and she leads them to a waygate. Moiraine will take Rand to Falm, the place where prophecy says he needs to proclaim himself. Then Moiraine, Rand, Varen, and her warder Tomas are then approached by Lan, Alana, and her warder Maxim. We now have a coalition, a group that Moiraine can trust. These will most likely become the only contacts Moiraine will have moving forward. On the ramparts, the Aes Sedai link with Siuan Sanche and together create rain that puts out the fires. Now, something very interesting happens here, which I think will explain Siuan's later motivations. Lyanne approaches and Siuan asks, "Who's shielding Rand?" And Lyanne explains, "Varen is, because Siuan sent her." Now, there are two ways to look at this situation. The first option is simple. Varen lied. Therefore, Siuan should rush to Rand assuming that he is being freed by the Black Aja, because the Black Aja are not bound by the oaths. They can lie. But if we look carefully at Varen's words, she never said that the Amyrlin sent her. She actually said the Amyrlin requires your strength to protect Cairhien. Her second statement is, "I've been told to watch the boy," which isn't necessarily a lie either, because anyone could have told her to watch the boy. She didn't specify who. Lyanne assumes Varen was told by the Amyrlin to watch Rand. It's a false assumption. Lastly, Varen says, "This is an order." Again, it's not a lie. She's ordering it herself. But now that the words are misconstrued, Siuan has good reason to believe Varen and Moiraine cannot be trusted and sets off to stop them. This whole event is open to interpretation, so I love to know thoughts in the comments section, but I do ask that you be mindful and refrain from posting big spoilers. Is it a lie or an Aes Sedai bending of words? Either way, I love seeing the show make use of these complexities. The finale of the episode comes when Lan tells Moiraine she's actually being shielded by Ishamael in a way that doesn't require him to continually channel into the shield. Ishamael tied off the weaves in a knot and simply walked away, allowing her to believe she's been stilled. Lan figured it out. What an MVP. Now, here's my only real minor critique of the episode. Rand is able to successfully cut the knot that is shielding Moiraine, and I think had Rand spent just a little bit more time with Logain last episode or throughout the season, it would have felt a little more believable and less like a Deus Ex Machina. But on the other hand, Rand is the Dragon Reborn, so we could also attribute his easy success to the great pattern willing it so, or simply the knowledge from his past life as Luce Theron. Anyways, before they all can escape, Siuan Sanche shows up, accusing Moiraine of lying about being stilled, and commands her to close the waygate. Siuan has no more reason to trust Moiraine. Also, Moraine's former promise on the Oath Rod in Season 1 prevents her from not following an order like this. The waygate closes, but then Lanfear shows up. Lanfear channels at Siuan, saying, "Luckily for me, a broken Amyrlin is more useful than a dead one." And I have to ask, did she just still her, or is it just an injury? Did she let Siuan live, knowing that being betrayed by Moiraine is going to be absolutely devastating? Moiraine takes one last look at Siuan, then follows Lanfear, Lan, and Rand into the waygate, and that wraps things up. Something I enjoyed a lot about this was the Barthanes is a Darkfriend reveal. I think the writers really succeeded here because throughout the entire season, I was questioning whether they would stay true to the books and have him be an agent of the Shadow, or would they switch things up and make his mother a Darkfriend too? It had me questioning every scene they were in. Was Lady Anvers just a typical Cairhien schemer, or was there something more sinister happening? Another standout character was Logain. It's impressive to have such a short amount of time on screen, but still make such a big impact. With him possibly headed back to the White Tower next season, I'm already questioning what the story will look like for characters like him, Siuan Sanche, Varen, and Alana. The Amyrlin is in a position where she won't know who to trust, and it's going to make things really messy for her story going forward. Another highlight for me was Elaine. I'm not a typical violence is the answer type of person, but the scene where she knocks out the Damane was such a pleasure. It's always something I loved about her character. Yes, she's prim and proper, but Elaine has no qualms with getting her hands dirty, and it feels good to see the tables turn on the Shan. The rescue attempt next episode is something I'm looking forward to the most, and I think if the finale really ends with a bang, the future of the Wheel of Time series will be set in stone as one of the show's fantasy fans can look forward to for years to come. That wraps things up for this episode, and if you enjoyed it, let me know by liking the video and subscribing to the channel.